Hello students, coming to Java Programming Unit 3. Currently we are discussing Chapter 2 Inheritance in Java, Video 8. And these are the topics we're going to be covered in Unit 3 of this Inheritance Chapter 2 of this Unit 3. And these are the topics. The first one, Dynamic Method Dispatch, Interfaces and Inheritance, Abstract Classes. First one, Dynamic Method Dispatch. And this one is related to, and this concept is related to the method overriding discussed in the previous video. And coming to this one, so dynamic method dispatch is the concept related to method overriding. And we know that this forms the basis for Java's most powerful concept called dynamic method dispatch. And it is the mechanism of by which a call to an overridden method is resolved at runtime. So this is important here. The dynamic method dispatch is the process of resolving this overridden method problem occurred usually in class hierarchy. And we know that method overridden is the concept of having subclass method name similar to the method name defined in the superclass. And this problem is resolved at runtime, not at compile time. And coming to this dynamic method dispatch is important because this is how implements runtime polymorphism. And at runtime, we are resolving the call to a overridden method and we are binding at runtime. So this is concept related to polymorphism. And you all know about polymorphism. There is a concept called binding in polymorphism, late binding, early binding, static binding, or dynamic binding. So here, this runtime resolving this calling of overridden method for invoking and execution. And this one is called as runtime polymorphism or dynamic polymorphism. And we know that the important point we already discussed in the last video that a superclass reference variable can refer to a subclass object. And this the problem can overcome by this one in the problem of using this one. So Java uses this fact to resolve call to overridden methods at runtime. So this process is called dynamic method dispatch. That's why we discuss this concept of a superclass reference variable can refer to a subclass object. And we use this same process to resolve this problem occurred when we have overridden methods calling at runtime. And this already in overridden concept, and this problem is resolved using super keyword in the previous concept. And coming to here, when an overridden method is called through a superclass reference, overridden method is called through a superclass reference, Java determines which version of that method to be executed upon the type of the object being referred to at the time the call occurs. This determination made at runtime, right? Here the concept is thinking about reference variable and object. And we know that a reference variable is a reference to a object of type of class defined. And here this Java determines when we made a call to this overridden method through a superclass reference, it automatically executed and call the method based on the type of the object being referred at the time the call occurs. So this is can be resolved by here. Therefore, if a superclass contains a method, listen carefully, a superclass contains a method that is overridden by a subclass. We know this point well. Then, when different types of objects are, for a subclass, you can create many number of or different types of objects that are referred to through a superclass reference variable. Yes, it is possible, and we already seen a program about this one, and different versions of methods are executed. You will see this little bit confusion whatever you have in your mind can be resolved by example problem. Okay, program. And note that one here, this overridden methods in Java are similar to virtual functions in the languages like C++ and CH. You already covered this C++ in the previous semester. Then you are aware of this one and you are familiar with this concept called virtual functions. And which virtual functions can resolve the naming convention occurred in those languages. And the similar type of topic here in Java, that overridden method solves the problem of naming convention occurred during this inheritance, where these subclasses are trying to define the methods with same name as the methods defined in the superclass. And we know that this problem can be solved using super keyword, or now we are going to the dynamic method dispatch. Here is an example that illustrates dynamic method dispatch concept. And coming to this example program and concentrate on this one, how to resolve this calling method, overridden method to invoke and execute. So coming to here, one existing class A and having one method called call me method, and inside this call me method of this class, we are using system.out.println statement for displaying message like method of class A, method of class A. Then coming to method class B that extends the existing class A. Now this A class becomes superclass and B becomes subclass now by executing this one. And this entire B class is a subclass to this superclass A. And here, this subclass having some method with same name of this class A, superclass A having, that is call me function. This method is called overridden, override call method. And here in this method, inside of this subclass method call me, the statement displaying method of class B, method of class B. And next one, class C, another class is extending the same superclass of B is A. So if you observe this one, what type of inheritance it is? A is a superclass and two classes are extending the properties of A. That it means A is extending properties of A and C also extending the properties of A. This type of inheritance is called hierarchical inheritance, and we already seen this one. So here this subclass C also extending the properties of class A. So it can also override a method call me with same name inside this C class scope. Inside this call me method of subclass C, the method of class C. So these are the behaviors of this class hierarchy. Class A is a superclass having call me method. Class B is a subclass of A having same call me method, overridden method. And class C is again subclass to superclass A having method call me overridden method. And coming to the main class inside main function, why we call this class as a main? We are having main method in this class. So coming to here, I'm declaring objects of this A class, superclass, B subclass of A, C subclass of A. And small a, small b, small c are the objects of this classes A, B, C. And I'm creating object of type of this classes A, B, and C. And I'm creating a reference variable of a type of class A. that A space R. This R is now an or a reference variable of type class A. I can assign this subclass object to a superclass reference variable. We already studied this concept and we are familiar with this one. R is a reference variable of superclass and A is a subclass or a superclass object, right? So A is a superclass object. It can also assign to a superclass reference variable. So now R refers to an object A class. Then when we call this reference r.callme, it calls a version of callme, that one, this method. This method called invoke, this method invoke. And again come to these two are different here. So now I am assigning this subclass object small b, subclass object to a superclass reference variable R. Now this R refers to a B object, and where this B object can able to call methods of this B class callme as well as A class callme. But the reference variable currently pointing to the or referring to the subclass object. So it calls only the method available in the subclass B with name callme. When you execute this one, r.callme. So it calls B's version of callme method. So here no need to use of this super keyword. The method overriding naming convention problem already solved in the previous topic, method overriding. And here in this dynamic method dispatch, we can solve this problem and resolve this problem by using this reference variable of the superclass and referring to the subclass object. And coming to the next one, R equal to C. C is also a subclass of A, and this object is assigning to a superclass reference variable. Then it refers to the C class object now. So when you call r.callme, it calls C class version of the callme method. So that it means if you understand the point of this concept dynamic method dispatch, a superclass reference variable can be assigned to a subclass object assigning to a superclass reference variable. And when we use this reference variable to call the member of classes and that the object it referring to right now. That is the point we clearly specified in the previous slide about this dynamic method dispatch. As output of these statement executions, the method of class A, method of class B, and method of class C. Got it? Understood? Clear? Next topic is interfaces and inheritance. We know that interfaces is a next upcoming chapter in unit 3. And right over here, we just give the introduction part, how what is the motivation to introduce this interfaces concept in Java language. So coming to here, interfaces and inheritance. Why overridden methods first? As we stated earlier, overridden methods allow Java to support runtime polymorphism. Remember this point as an interview question when you get facing of any competitions. This type of points may be come as a questions in the competition. This overridden method allows Java to support runtime polymorphism. The second one, these overridden methods are another way that Java implements one interface, multiple methods. One interface and multiple methods. This is not considered that aspect of a polymorphism. And we know this polymorphism is one of the most important principle of object-oriented programming. And then word, the name, the polymorphism. Poly means many, morphism means forms, many forms. That it means one interface will act as a multiple methods. And how this concept achieved in Java with the help of this overridden concept. And see here, by combining inheritance with overridden methods. That it means inheritance is for creating class hierarchy. superclass, subclass, subclass like that. And overridden methods concept allowing subclasses to define the methods with same name of the methods defined in the superclass. This is overridden. By combining this interface and overridden methods concept, a superclass can define the general form of the methods that will be used by all its subclasses. There, this point of motivation comes into the developers when use this superclass to define only the general form of the methods, then whatever the subclasses are extending the properties of this superclass, they can implement on their own about these methods defined generally in the superclass. So this is the motivation comes to design interface concept in Java language. This allows the subclasses the flexibility to define its own methods, their own methods. And superclass gives only the general form of method. This method type should be like this, method name like this, and the property signature of this method like this. Whenever the classes extending this superclass, they can override the methods specified as general form in the superclass and implementation, and they use the same signature in their subclasses, and the implementation can be on their own way, of implementation. So this still enforces a consistent interface. So this is the most first step to introduce the concept interface. And this interface concept solves many type of problems in Java. And related to this inheritance concept is multiple inheritance. That multiple inheritance concept is not support in Java using inheritance, but whereas using this interface, we can achieve that multiple inheritance. And we will discuss this one in the next chapter, that is interface of unit 3. Next one. Coming to this interfaces and inheritance, and we know that dynamic overridden methods with dynamic method dispatch, and we learned that this polymorphism, dynamic and runtime polymorphism can be achieved, and it is one of the most powerful mechanisms that object-oriented design of programs brings to bear on code reuse, and robustness. That it means powerful, robustness, strength, and strong, and very powerful in making the classes and methods and code of this applying classes, designing classes is reuse of code. And we already seen this property when we are designing inheritance or achieving inheritance or creating a class hierarchy, how the subclasses are reusing the code defined or reusing the methods defined in the superclasses. Got it? And for this understanding of this runtime polymorphism, here it is one simple example that the class name here, it is a figure, and this class having two instance variables, dimension 1, dimension 2, and one constructor for initializing this dimension values with the parameter values passed to this constructor when object is creating for this class figure. Got it? So this is the behavior of this superclass. Maybe some classes are extending this. So these instance variables dimension 1 and dimension 2 are initializing using the constructor by passing two values for this constructor when we are creating an object of this class. And I have a method called area of a particular figure. This method, and it doesn't have any type of implementation part, how this area can be calculated for a figure. Here it is, area implementation is not defined. It is undefined area for figure, and it simply returns 0. Got it? And this is the method defined in the superclass or maybe a existing class figure. Next one, just remember this behavior, and we are going to create a class hierarchy, and that it means subclasses for this existing class figure for finding area and using the same dimensions. See the magic here. So here I have two classes, that is rectangle and triangle. This is hierarchical inheritance. So figure is a super class and two classes, rectangle and triangle. These two classes are extending this figure class. So this is hierarchical inheritance. And here this rectangular class having one constructor here. And this constructor taking two arguments for initializing the values of the dimensions of the figure, dimension 1 and dimension 2. And this superclass figure contains the process of how to initialize these dimensions with the constructor passing arguments. So no need to define this type of process of instructions for initializing these dimension values inside this subclass. So we can use simply super keyword by passing these two values like this. Then this super keyword invokes the constructor defined with two parameter values and invoke that constructor into this subclass situation. Here this process at this one, this constructor is invoked. This constructor is invoked here, right? Here it invokes. Got it? Next one. This rectangular class override a method of area that is defined in the superclass, and here the method is same overridden. The type of the method, name of the method is same, double area. Then only inheritance possible. Inheritance and method overridden possible. Overriding is possible. So this overridden method and this subclass rectangle implementing the area of the rectangle on its own. So it's simply returning the values dimension 1 multiplied with dimension 2. That it means generally we have a rectangular. How to calculate the area of a rectangle? It takes height and width or depth, something like here. This side and this side, multiplying these two, multiplying the length of this one and length of this dimension. Both the dimensions are multiplied, so automatically we can achieve the area of an rectangle. So this we call here in superclass. Understand this, what this inheritance interface concept achieved. So here in superclass, one method is defined double and area, double type method area, and here it is doesn't define any area implementation process. Just it is a figure class and it only gives dimensions and method representation. Then whereas this subclasses rectangle figure, consider this as a rectangle figure having this dimension 1 and dimension 2, and the implementation part of this area calculation of this rectangular figure by multiplying those two dimensions. Got it? So this is the process of getting that polymorphism using this method overriding. So as I told you in the previous slide, by combining this inheritance and override method overriding, we can achieve this polymorphism and creating and motivation to introduce interface concept in Java. Coming to this triangle class here, it also extends the figure class, superclass, and one triangle constructor inside this class, one constructor. And again, it uses the super keyword to invoke the superclass constructor for initializing these values with dimension 1 and dimension 2 of a figure. And it again overrides the method area defined in the superclass, right? So here it is triangle. And this area calculation for this, they are also triangle. Sorry. And here the formula is dimension 1 and dimension 2 by 2. So actually generally the triangle is like this. And this is one dimension and we will take height. This is height and this one. Right. Based on these two dimensions, multiplying and by dividing with 2, then it gives the total area. This is the formula for calculating the area of a triangle. So whatever we take in these two dimensions and area calculation of this triangle, this class completely implemented this part of this area on its own based on this process and calculating process of area triangle. Then it applies this implementation part of this method override, right? So here the concept is don't concentrate on what is figure, what is rectangle and what is triangle. But here the concept is how the interface and method overriding combine to achieve polymorphism. This area, here we have created one interface here about this method called area. We have just specified the type of area and area name, and we just leave the process of implementation in superclass. But whereas in subclasses, they override the method of area defined in the superclass with same type and name and implementation part on their own, the subclasses are implementing the same way. Got it? This is called interface and inheritance. Then coming to the main class here, find areas in static in main method. I have created object of this figure superclass by passing two values 10, 10. Got it, but no use. But here we are not creating any object, and even though we created an object, but we are not calculating any area in the superclass. But these two are important here. These are the two subclasses of this figure superclass, rectangle. I'm creating an object of rectangle R by passing two values 9 and 5. 9, 5. So these two dimensions are initialized to the superclass dimension 1 and dimension 2. And triangle T, and also I'm passing two values here 10, 8. So this all are valid and executed properly. And now coming to this point, I'm creating a reference variable of superclass, figure reference variable. And I'm assigning this R is a rectangular object, rectangular class object. Reference variable of superclass equal to object of the subclass. So this is, we know the concept very well. And here we are calling this figure reference area. Which method invoked here? By executing this one, the method defined in the rectangular class, this method invoke and execute. Right here, this one. Here, rectangular class. So what is the output of here? So area of rectangular, we are multiplying those two values. So that it means what is the rectangular object contains the values 9, 5. So 9 into 5, 45. So that's why the first statement executed here inside area of a rectangle, the area is 45. What is second we are doing step here? This one, figure reference equal to T. T is a triangle object, subclass triangle object T. Now, when we call area using this reference variable, which method invoke? This one. The method, override method defined in the subclass triangle. What the area calculation? Dimension 1 into dimension 2 by 2. So this here. So what is the formula here? The values for triangle object is 10, 8. 10 into 8, 80, 80 by 2, 40. So inside area for triangle, the area is 40 here. Got it? And I'm using this reference variable of a superclass to hold the object of superclass itself. So I'm calling figure.area. So whenever it goes to the superclass for finding the method name area, so here one system.println area for figure is undefined, return 0. So here also the same. So area is 0. So nothing will calculate about area of a figure. Understood? Here the interface to area operation is same no matter what type of figure is being used. The interface to area, what I'm saying here, to the interface, this interface concept is motivated from this concept, and we see much more about these interfaces in the next chapter. The interface to area operation is same in all the classes, but no matter what type of figure is being used, either it may be a rectangle or a triangle. Got it? Next one, coming to the topic abstract classes. Abstract classes. There are situations in which you will want to define a superclass, declares the structure of a given abstraction without providing a complete implementation for every method. Right? The same we are discussing here. In the previous one, the implementation of this one, right? We just given that figure superclass having a method called area, and we are just assuming that super subclasses may override those methods and may or may not. May or may not. But in some of the situations, maybe this superclass wants to be declare the structure of the given defined method in the superclass must be override by the subclasses. Some important methods, not all, maybe some of the methods may be must and should be override by the subclasses. So in that situations, the previous topic will not help us for doing the same. But whereas, so that's why this abstract classes concepts introduced. Such a class determines the nature of the methods that the subclasses must implement. That it means the superclass defines some methods and only gives the general form of the methods, just like the previous concept, superclass figure done about method called area. The same way. But when we define abstract classes with this concept, then the subclasses must implement those methods determined by the superclass. Not all the methods, only that abstract class methods and abstract methods. So Java's solution to this problem is abstract method. And even though we are, or whatever the method the superclass wants to define and in a general form, and the subclass who are extending this superclass must be implement those methods. So that's the concept. We need to define those methods as abstract methods. And to declare an abstract method, use this general form. So precedes the definition of a method, type of the method, name of the method, parameter list, and we know that this one. But before this definition of a method, use the keyword called abstract. Abstract keyword, when you use and precedes the function method definition, then this method becomes abstract method. Whenever a superclass defines an abstract method with this signature, and here if you observe clearly, no method body is present, just semicolon indicates semicolon at this definition of the method itself. And there is no curly brace open and curly brace close and body of the method. And just we are giving this abstract method with type and name and parameter list about the method going to be override and must be override and must be implemented on their own in the subclasses. So this is the concept, right? And coming to some more key points about this one. Any class that contains one or more abstract methods, and we must declare that class also abstract class. When we define one method as an abstract, and must define that class as an abstract class. There can be no objects of an abstract class, right? How to declare a class abstract? So generally we use class keyword followed by class name and scope of the class, and use an abstract keyword. This precedes this class definition, abstract class A. When we use this abstract keyword at the time of declaration of this class A, then this class becomes abstract class. Then you can define many number of methods, abstract method inside this class. Now also, you cannot declare abstract constructors. Remember this point. You can define abstract class as well as abstract method, but cannot declare abstract constructor. Remember this point for interview questions also. Abstract constructor cannot be declared. And abstract static methods. You cannot declare abstract constructors or abstract static methods. May be possible of defining static methods in classes, general public methods, static methods, but you cannot allow to define abstract static methods in the class. Okay, right? And you remember one more point about this abstract classes. In the abstract class, methods may be of type collection, maybe abstract methods there be there, public methods there, static methods there, whatever it is. But even when we have at least one abstract method, then the class must be an abstract class. And not the condition that all the methods should be abstract. There is not that type of condition. That abstract class contains may abstract methods or a public methods or static methods, maybe like that, and constructors and everything, but not fully defined that methods is called abstract method. Okay. And coming to this point, any subclass of an abstract class, any subclass of an abstract class, that it means when we are defining this class A as a superclass or an abstract class, when any subclass extending the properties of this one, now I'm declaring another class like class B extends, right? Extends A. When this statement executed, what happens? So this class B becomes subclass of this abstract class A. And this subclass must either implement all of the abstract methods, not all methods. All methods may abstract may contains may abstract methods, public method, general method maybe. But the subclass must either implement all of the abstract methods in the superclass or be declared abstract itself. That it means this subclass also may declare this class as an abstract. It's an optional thing, right? It's an optional thing. When we declare this subclass as an abstract, and one of the methods should be abstract at least. And why? Because in multi-level inheritance, superclass, subclass, and subclass may act as a superclass for another subclass. In that case, this intermediate class, subclass, and superclass acting, and this may be declared this as an abstract also for the subclasses defined in the next level, next immediate levels. Okay, got it? So example to better understand this abstract classes concept. So here I'm declaring this class A as an abstract class. So at least one method should be abstract. So here void call me is a method. Void call me is a method. And the type of method is void and method name is called no parameters here. And I'm defining this method as an abstract method. So by using and preceding this abstract keyword to this definition of this method. And if you observe, there is no body and just use this semicolon here, semicolon, right? So completely this is an abstract method. It following the syntax clearly. And coming to another method in this abstract class is call me to method. That is the name of the method and it is the type of the method. And if you see in here, this is not an abstract method, it is a general public method, or if we call as a concrete methods are still allowed in abstract classes. That it means I told you that an abstract class may contains abstract methods and normal methods, and those methods we call here like concrete methods. And here it displaying the statement, this is a concrete method, not an abstract method. Okay. And there is a subclass called B, extending the properties of class A. That is already abstract class. A is an abstract class. What is the condition here? You learn the important point to remember is that whatever the methods, abstract methods defined in the class A, and those methods should be implemented here. This is definition, and implementation should be this one. This one is implementation. So here this void call me method should be implemented in the subclass with some implementation. Here system.out.println is just displaying the statement B's implementation of call me. So it's considered as that one. Understood? Got it? And coming to this abstract class, here it is an example program. Abstract demo is a class name, main class name. Inside main function, we have created one object to this subclass B. A small b is an object now. And b dot call me, which method will call? This is the overridden method defined in the subclass. This one, this method will call. Okay, this method will call. And b dot call me to s. This is the method defined in the superclass. As b is a subclass to class A, so object of this class can allow to access the member of this superclass. So then it is possible, it is a valid statement. B dot call me to. What is the output of this one is base implementation of call me, and this is a concrete method. Done. This is the concept called abstract classes. So what we covered in this video is the first one. We're saying that dynamic method dispatch related to override method concept in the previous video. Interfaces and inheritance. What is the motivation and where this inheritance concept get motivated, and take it as an origin to develop interface like a classes in the Java language in the abstract classes. Got it? Thank you.